Okay, so good morning. My question was, when did Jesus talk about obey the law of the land? The first verse that you referenced is 1 Peter chapter 2. Um, Jesus wasn't speaking there. That was Peter. Okay, but I think that it's important to recognize that this passage that you're referencing is also used to justify slavery. It gives instructions to slaves on how they should deal with their masters, even when their masters are cruel to them. It instructs them to obey them. So I think that that's really important when you try to use that to justify not feeding people because you'd prefer to follow the law of the land. But let's talk about the second passage here, Matthew chapter 22. I'm not going to start in verse 21 because you're taking this passage completely out of context. So let's read it together. We're going to start in verse 15. When the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words, they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. Teacher, they said, we know you are a man of integrity, and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by men, because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, you hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax. They brought him a denarii, and he asked them, whose portrait is this? And whose inscription? Caesar's, they replied. Then he said to them, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. When they heard this, they were amazed, so they left him and went away. There is nothing in that passage referencing follow the law of the land. That passage was about taxes. That passage is about taxes. And then later in the same passage, talking to the Sadducees and the Pharisees once again, they asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. We get so fixated on this idea that we need to follow the law of the land and that others should be treated certain ways based on whether or not they follow arbitrary laws of a government. You are arguing against feeding people. You are making an argument against feeding people because you need to follow the law of the land. There is nowhere that Jesus said don't feed people. In fact, repeatedly, over and over again, he gave the same commandments. Love the Lord your God. Love your neighbor. It's that straightforward. And you can't love your neighbor if they're starving.